The history of the people of Ekiti predates far back the creation of Ekiti as a state on the 1st of October 1996. On a close study, almost all the historical landmarks in Ekiti State tell stories about war, communal battle, fight and rivalry. At the end of every story, there is conquest, which by inference denotes the behavioral pattern of the people till date. Stretching from the state capital Ado-Ekiti through Ikere, the towns and villages, there are clusters of rocks and hills which have historical connection with the people of yore, and in some cases associate them with the nature and indeed tradition. These aged men grew up in this area and have lived with this rock all their lives, but the story they now relate is what has been transferred from one generation to another, because there is nothing to suggest that they were already one when it happened. There is some shadow of doubt which makes it more of mere conjectures, which at best is not scientifically proved or any forensic explanation. But can one erase that belief from the people because it has permeated and planted into future generations? The Ekiti people attached some measures of myth to these rocks, which define the history, methodology, and the traditional beliefs of the people. Historically, the Ekiti people met the rocks here, but how are they formed? It is scientifically proven that a rock is formed when magma, which is found underneath the earth, comes to the surface in the form of lava during a volcanic eruption. The lava solidifies to form the rock. That is science. The people who live by the rocks may not be bothered about what science explains about the formation of a rock, but what is paramount to them is the cultural affinity with these rocks and indeed what they mean to them. This is Ikere, a 10-minute drive from Ado-Ekiti. These are called Olosunta Hills and Orele Hills, directly related to these other clusters called Ugele Hill. All of these rocks are reputed to have played a role in fighting different wars, just as they served as protective shield for the people. If you imagine how that could be possible, these very aged men are still alive to relive the story.
Fún ìdárayá fún ọdún time tá máa ń ṣe lọ́dọọdún tí a bá fẹ́ ṣọdún Ògún eégún yẹn á jáde. Nǹkan tá a bá lẹ́nu bàbá wa nìyẹn pé obìnrin ò gbọdọ̀ wọbẹ̀. Olóṣùṣà ni wọ́n máa ń ṣọdún ẹ̀ lọ́dọọdún. Ó ní àwòrò tó máa ń àwòrò ẹ̀ wà ní ìsàlẹ̀ odò ọjà lọ ní rádàbọ̀ tó odò ọjà lọ ibẹ̀ à ń pa ẹ ní ọlọ́jẹ̀. Àwòrò rẹ̀ ọlọ́jẹ̀ ló ń jẹ́. Nínú nǹkan tí àwọn bàbá wa sọ fún wa ni pé tá a bá ń wá òjò nígbà dry season yẹn wọ́n á ṣọdún rẹ̀ wọ́n á fún ní èkejì màálù yẹn ẹlẹ́lá ṣẹ̀hẹ́n wọ́n á fún wọ́n á ṣọdún ẹ̀ òjò àárọ̀ tó bá ṣọdún ẹ̀ àwọn tó ń wọ́ ọmọ wọ́n á tọrọ ọmọ wọ́n á gbàdúrà wọ́n á bímọ. Òun ni Òjó Ajólàgùn ó gba owó oṣù àpò kan 200 naira. Ó wáyá owó yẹn wọ́n san àwọn òyìnbó wọ́n san sí báǹkì owó tó tán san fún wọ́n san fún sí báǹkì. Wọ́n á sọ fún pé ẹnikẹ́ni ò gbọ́dọ̀ gba owó ni. Ohun tí iṣẹ́ tí wọ́n máa mú ṣe sáyẹn ìlú kẹ́rẹ́ líbí wọ́n ní ọ̀dà nìkan fi dà káàrin ìlú. Ọ̀dà wọn la kọ́kọ́ dà láàrin Òkèrè nígbà yẹn. Ìgbà tí wọ́n ń jagun yẹn gan nígbà tó ń jagun yẹn ó pẹ̀lẹ́ mọ́lẹ̀ gbogbo yẹn fẹ́ ní agbára. Ọba kó àwọn èrò okun sórí okun ọba gbọ́n ló tó gun bàbá pa
nígbà tí òun pẹ̀lú ọ̀rọ̀ ẹlẹ̀ wọ́n jọ jagun yẹn òun náà dé kó tiẹ̀ ó kó tiẹ̀ sọ olùgbà ogun yẹn la parí eléyìí ọlákógun tiẹ̀ ó kó sílẹ̀ àwa lè yí lónìí eléyìí ti bí kò kó tiẹ̀ sílẹ̀ eléyìí kan máa bọ̀ ọ́n lọ́dọọdún nígbà yẹn.
At Ise-Ekiti, shortly after Oye-Ekiti, are these beautiful hills which involve climbing up to about 4 kilometers to get to the top, and they are indeed beautiful sights to behold. I'm standing on one of the highest mountains in Ekiti State. It is called Orokio, located in Ise-Ekiti. You have to trek from the downtown 4 kilometers before you can get to this point. This is one of the untapped natural resources that could boost the revenue drive of Ekiti State. So others from other parts of the world can come here. The mountain is associated with a story that it protects its people during war. From the top of the hills, we had an area view of Ise-Ekiti and far-flung settlements. The hills are covered by mist which emits from the rocks, sometimes blurring vision, but certainly not diminishing the beauty of nature. From this position on Orokio War, we have the area view of Ise-Ekiti, a beautiful sight to behold, and clusters of mountains. This city definitely will help to boost the revenue drive of Ekiti State if the government is serious. This hill is called Orokiyawa War Center. It is recorded in history that Orokiyawa War Center, which curators are the Moba descent, is the preserved site of war between the people and invaders from Ilorin. The invaders met their Waterloo at Orokiyawa, but at the time of our visit, none of the persons who have the traditional right to enter the war center was available. This lady is a member of a church built on this hill. You said you know a little bit about this place, these hills and mountain. What do you know about it?
A perfect Ikole. Perfect Ikole. Mountain. Perfect Ikole. This mountain.
It's called?
Perfect Ikole.
Okay, Prophet Ikole is the owner of this church?
So, yes.
Okay. So why did he come here? Why did you people come to church here?
Everywhere. Lagos State, Kano, Canada, Syria, South Africa. Everywhere. Ekiti State. Everywhere. You look from Ise-Ekiti.
They come church?
She come church.
Here?
Yes.
So why Prophet Ikole choose here to put church on top mountain? Why?
Nígbà tí higher mountain yẹ, ibẹ̀ wọ́n nígbà tí ogun bá le, tí ogun bá fẹ́ kó wọn lẹ́rú, tó bá ti débẹ̀, ibẹ̀ lógun máa stop sí. Higher mountain tá máa ń lò yẹ. Orokio ọlọ́mọ wẹ́wẹ́. Nígbà tí bàbá lọ tọrọ lọ́wọ́ bàbá lóòrè àná tó dolóńgbé, Orokio ọlọ́mọ wẹ́wẹ́ ni. Orokio ibi tó ti ń gba àdúrà, tí àdúrà dẹ̀ ti ń gbà. Kò sí bí ogun bá ṣe le, tí wọ́n bá gbé dorí òkè tó bá ti lè gbàdúrà, ogun máa ṣẹ́. Láì léwé, láì lo nǹkankan, omi àti òróró nìkan òun là ń lò ní orí òkè.
Ikole Seaworm Spring is another creation of nature in Ekiti. It is located in Ekiti West local government area. Here, the warm springs roll down a hilly landscape to form a confluence with cold spring, believed to be flowing from an opposite direction.
We are at the meeting point of the cold water and the warm water. These two waters are coming from different sources and they are having two different colors.
This is cold. This is the cool water. This is the hot water. See? God.
The local story says that the first person that located the warm water and the cold water was an hunter. His name was Olosun. Olosun, the hunter, came from Ile-Ife so many years ago to attend the annual Hunters Festival at Ikogunwosi. Ikogunwosi used to be the real name of Ikogunwosi town. When Olosun entered into this forest, in order for him to kill a reasonable big size animal to prove his fame as an hunter, he entered into this forest. He did not see any reasonable big size animal to kill. But when he entered into this part of the forest, because it was during the rainy season, the first thing he observed was that this place was filled with steam like water vapor. He was surprised, and the climatic condition of this place was different. I mean, it was warm. Then, in an attempt for him to find out what was happening, he decided to stand by one side. After some time, he saw an antelope. The antelope ran to the top of the rock at the source of this water where we are still going. He ran after the antelope in an attempt for him to kill the antelope. He couldn't kill the antelope. He didn't see the antelope because as soon as the antelope got to the top of the rock at the source of this water, the antelope disappeared. So as an hunter, as a famous hunter, he wanted to actually search for that antelope and kill the antelope. His attempt to search for the antelope made him to fall into warm water. It became a surprise for him because he had been seeing waters, but he had not seen water that was so warm like that. So out of curiosity, he decided to trek, to trace
The source.
the water. He knew that the water was springing out from that point where he fell into the water. So he was trying to trace the length of the water. He decided to enter into the water. He now started trekking inside the water. When he got to this place where we call the meeting point now, he noticed that the water was flowing downwards, but there is another water that was coming from the opposite direction. He now decided, he thought within himself that the color of that other water was different, but he was thinking within himself that that could also be part of the warm water. So out of curiosity, he also went to entered into the other water that was flowing from the other direction. As soon as he left the meeting point, he entered into cold water, extremely cold water. It became double surprise for him. He now decided to trace the cold water. Getting to the source of the cold water, he decided to come back again. He now realized that the two waters are meeting at a point, and each of them are not flowing into one another, into each other.
Oh, this is cold. This is cold, man.
It was the oracle, the Ifa oracle, that related the story of the two waters to them. The Ifa oracle made them to understand that long time ago there was a man called Ogongon. Ogongon means straight shooter, Atamatase. Ogongon came with his two wives to live in this forest. They were living together in form of polygamous home. Ogongon married two wives. The first wife was called Awele Otutubiosu. She was a gentle woman. Awele was easygoing. She's somebody that can tolerate people. She was the type of woman that any man would dream to marry. whereas the second wife, called Ije, was the direct opposite nature of Awele. She was temperamental, she was tough, she was somebody that is always angry. She's somebody that cannot just tolerate or take any nonsense from anybody. The Ogongon two wives, Awele and Ije, they were quarreling one day. Then Awele, the gentlewoman, does not want to fight. She did not want to fight. She decided to go into the far forest. She lied down on the ground in the forest. Quietly, she changed to cold water. So the cold water is Awele Otutubiosun, cold water, after our gentle nature. When the junior wife, our Ije, saw the cold water on the third day of that quarrel, out of anger, she decided to rush to the top of the rock where the source of this warm water is. She angrily hit herself to the rock and she died there. And when she died, her flesh scattered. So each of the points that the flesh of our Ije touched became the source of this warm water.
The sources of the springs are natural mysteries better conjectured. These two springs don't mix even at the meeting point. Neither do they disturb the temperature of each other. They both have distinct medicinal and curative values in a symbiotic nature.
The Ikogosi people so much believe in the efficacy of that cold water to cure any type of diseases or sickness. In those days, if an indigene of Ikogosi, because that's the real name of Ikogosi, an indigene of Ikogosi living outside the town, maybe abroad or any state or any country or any part of it, if the person is having sickness that they cannot even figure out why that person is having that sickness, or that sickness is as rejected orthodox medicine. If they bring such a person home, that is the water that they will fetch. That cold water is the water they will fetch to bath the person. And there's something they called epita in Ekiti. Epita means when you are doing something that is bad to the other person. If such a person that they brought from home has not done that thing that we call epita, he has not been wicked to another person, and by the grace of God that created these two waters, if they use that water to bath the person, or the person drinks that water, after some time the person will get cured.
The symbolism of the Medicinal Valley cuts a wide story of nature. This is a tourist delight, but it looks abandoned. The tour guide reckoned that the last renovation was done by Kayode Fayemi, the governor as it then was.
Ikogosi is a shadow of itself now, completely run down from what we did. When I was governor in Ekiti, we used to have 30,000 people in Ikogosi every December. There are 3 Nollywood films, popular films that were made out of Ikogosi when I was governor. Because everybody saw the place at the time as a good spot for whatever they wanted to do. When I was governor of Ekiti State, when I became governor, there were 2 standard hotels in Ekiti. Fountain Hotel and Pathfinder Hotel. By the time I left office, there were 10 standard hotels in Ekiti. You had Delight, you had Prosperous, you had Midas, you had Jewel, you have Coke Hotel, you have 10 new ones. And why? Because people were trooping in when I was governor.
Just by the meeting point of the springs is this conjoined trees which rest on a common root. They have been like this for 95 years, not falling, the leaves are not withering. There is a story behind this.
The existence of the two trees there spiritually has something to do with the existence of the two waters. The two trees have existed at the meeting point of Kogosi, warm spring and cold spring, for 95 years. Biologically, they said there is a symbiotic relationship happening between them. In symbiotic relationship, the palm kernel tree is benefiting something from the timber tree, and the timber tree is equally benefiting something from the palm kernel tree. But talking spiritually, I believe they are a symbol. They serve as a symbol to show that something of great importance is happening between the two waters.
Ekiti State is littered with tourist sites, both nature's gift and man-made. The Afeba Balola University is a big citadel of learning, though privately owned, but has become tourist collectors' site, partly because of the delicately manicured landscape and the serenity. This same way, the incumbent governor, Ayo Fayose, talks relishly about the imposing government house, which has deservedly given Ado-Ekiti a beauty to behold.
You want to see a governor's office where the environment, the aesthetics is super. You want to go to the High Court, the new High Court, which is equally one of the best in this country. 5-star finish, and I stand to be corrected. When you see the interior, you can only find anything similar to that in Abuja.
The last census put the population of Ekiti conservatively at over 3 million, occupying a land mass of 6,353 square kilometers, bounded in the south by Ondo State, in the north by Kwara, in the east by Kogi, and in the west by Osun. The people are culturally homogeneous and they speak Ekiti, with a little flavor of the languages of the boundary states.
Ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ mútẹ́lẹ̀ o. Ẹsẹ̀ wé. Ipa títù náà mẹ́rọ jírárìá o. Ẹsẹ̀ wé. Ipa títù náà mẹ́torí lọ́jà ìjàre. Ẹsẹ̀ wé. Ipa títù ló balẹ̀ mẹ́rin. Ẹsẹ̀ wé. Ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ mútẹ́lẹ̀ o. Ẹsẹ̀ wé. Ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ mútẹ́lẹ̀ o. Ẹsẹ̀ wé. Mànúwé mànúgungun. Ẹsẹ̀ wé. Ìkúlọ́lọ́ ní fọ́fánà ní. Èyí peléke. Èyí peléke. Kété olóṣèlú ra kó. Mọ bẹ̀ jáde jádò. Mọ bẹ̀ jáde kájò. Ìyẹjọ́ àti ìjà fún democracy. Oko. Mo rọ́lá o. Mo lálá kó lógun yàgbàjọba o. Èyí peléke. Èyí peléke. Ìjàre ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ mú tẹ̀lẹ̀. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ mú tẹ̀lẹ̀. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Oko. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Eke. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Ẹyọ pa ká ìjà fún democracy. Àrùmọ̀yẹ mi kọ́ lọ. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Àrùmọ̀yẹ ọmọ ìṣùkúrú kò kú sí. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Àrùmọ̀yẹ olóṣèlú kọ́ lọ. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ mú tẹ̀lẹ̀ o. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ mú tẹ̀lẹ̀ o. Ẹsẹ̀ wúre. Mànúwé mànúgùn. lọ́ní fọ́bánà ní. èyí peléke èyí peléke kété olóṣèlú ra kó mọ̀bẹ̀jà kéjàdó mọ̀bẹ̀jà kékájò iye ká ti gà fún democracy oko mo rọ́lá o mọ̀ lálá kó lógun yàgbàjọba o.